Welcome to The Kid is in School, where we talk about whatever we want since our kid is not here to interrupt us. But we don't have a lot of time before the bell rings, so let's get right into it. In theater or film or television, when you reveal something to the audience, you're tearing down the fourth wall. What would you call it in podcast terms? Is it still a fourth wall?
Well, it's all show business, so I feel like the fourth wall applies to anything that has a stage,
yes,
for sure.
Right. That an audience is witnessing, but our audience is listening. So are we pulling down the earmuff?
I get the
headphone.
The headphone cup. That was the cup?
The cushion, the headphone cushion. By revealing something that I wouldn't normally disclose to the audience. Okay. But I think it's important that people hear this. Is that it's been hard for both of us to put out an episode as often as we'd like. Each week. We do it, we manage it, but it's not been easy. It's been a bit of a struggle. And that varies week to week on the reason, largely due to scheduling. But I think another holdup was we're collaborating with two people. This is a collaboration between two people who care about each other. So this isn't just two.
You and me, by the way. That's who we're talking about.
That's us.
Abbi and Luke.
And it's not like Siskel and Ebert who have, I don't know, behind the scenes bickered. Maybe they did. But I think they got along, didn't they? What was their thing?
I don't know.
Okay. But they stayed together for a long time. And it's not like when you're, bumping into some guy on the street you don't agree with, and it's very easy to, say, I don't need to help you stay out of the rain by holding up this newspaper, sir. That collaboration can end quickly. But when it comes to things like me not getting promotion done on time, you could have said, hey, this needs to get done, or we have a problem. But instead, you'd be like, oh, you didn't do it. Okay.
Yes.
So promotion would not get done because that was something I took on. And we were going to do a visual component to the podcast. We have a visual component to this podcast. We've got recorded interviews and we've got an episode that we recorded on our own. And we thought, why don't we make our podcast look like a lot of other podcasts by having a visual element? But, the editing of that was not something I know how to do. And you said, don't worry, I'll get it done. But you traveled a ton right around that time. And that just began, just week after week of road gigs, which is great news for us, but not good news for the listeners or the viewers that we were going to have.
The listeners are fine. The viewers.
The listeners didn't miss a thing. But I put makeup on, and that's sad that no one got to see that. I think we videotaped 2 of them, right?
I believe so.
Okay. Yes. But the audience hasn't seen either. They've seen a screenshot of one on Instagram, I think, maybe on Facebook. So the reason I'm being so candid about it is I want to say thank you to... Wait, I have one other thing to confess. Our listenership has not been the same as a result of, these missed opportunities. Let's put them that way. So even though our first season was just us, and then we collaborated with a really cool production team to record some interviews, and we have those in the can, and we do intend to release those. Our second season which started out as just a sneak preview, like miniature episodes as we geared up for our production company to work with us again.
Which we did one mini episode.
We did a mini episode. We did. I liked that new format. That was fun. That took a lot of the pressure off. But then we went back into regular long form when our production team grew in a very unexpected way. No, I guess they expected it. They had a baby, which is great. Mm-hmm. And they were working behind the scenes on meeting some goals for our podcast. And, they didn't, get the things done that they wanted to do in the timeline that they wanted. So we just were not moving forward with the plan as we had discussed. So you and I took it upon ourselves to, instead of waiting any further, we'll just keep recording episodes, which we have. But yet I've been lagging, like I said, on the promotion. So I want to say thank you to the people who have listened thus far. Thank you to you for doing such a great job. And if you think Luke's being quiet, it's because he's
listening.
No,
like a good husband.
He's tied up, and occasionally I remove the duct tape.
Can I talk now?
That was great sound effects. You're like a regular Michael Winslow. Why haven't you been unveiling this talent of yours? So anyway, yeah, because Luke.
I like that you think I haven't unveiled this talent throughout the podcast. I feel like it's maybe you missed a couple of the ones.
Maybe I have. We've treated the audience to our impressions. That I know. Like anytime we both think of a celebrity who we want to imitate, we then duel, and you're like, that's not who that is. This is who it is. So yeah, the reason you're talking less is so that I can have the floor. You're being very generous and letting me say my piece instead of, previously we would negotiate it and be like, how can we make this funny? That's another peek behind the scenes. But I said, I don't want to be funny anymore. Just kidding. I love that.
Just kidding, audience.
I love telling that to our daughter, though, when she's having fun being like naughty or cheeky and she knows she's being a smart aleck, and I'm like, stop laughing. That's not funny. I act extra angry. So, but then I'm smiling when I say it anyway. But just like, to be honest, sometimes like we'll find the humor, I guess, if we can in it. But I just wanted to say, and I don't know if you view it this way, but some people would say abandoning a work project or deciding to walk away from it is quitting. And others would say you've let it run its course. And then life, throws you new obstacles and you no longer have the resources or the time or the bandwidth or the drive to pursue an endeavor the way you were before.
I say it walked away and it didn't follow. I walked away and it didn't follow me.
It didn't follow you. Yeah, you weren't leaving. You were just busy.
I was like, come on, let's go together.
Let's do it.
The job stayed.
I like that. The spirit was willing, but the podcast was weak. That's a good title. So anyway, I think I have a hard time dealing with the concept of quitting, like being called a quitter. And it's because it's really familiar, and it brings me back to, I would quit games if I was losing right away, and
so just to clarify, you say it's very familiar. So you mean familiar that people called you a quitter, or familiar that you just quit all the time?
I think both, and also a third thing, I would call myself a quitter, and instead of looking at it like, well, maybe you just enjoyed it for what it was, and you moved on. Like I just never could accept that I changed my mind about something. I'd be like, well, I'm not quitting. Although I'm telling you, in my youth, if I did not like the way a game was going, I would walk away from that game. And they'd say, don't be a spoiled sport. So there was this negative connotation to me quitting. And if I couldn't roll a bowling ball down and make a strike, I would put it directly in the gutter. And my parents would be like, don't be like that. And then, gosh, what did you just say that reminded me of something I actually did? Oh, piano lessons. I took it from age 8, I believe, to age 12.
8 to 12. That's
a
good
felt
chunk
like
of time.
Stuck with it. But I was like, I'm done. And my sister kept at it for another few years. Like she was just like, I'm not a quitter. I'm gonna keep at this. And I was like, I'm a quitter? Yeah, I'm quitting. I quit the track team before I even started it. Someone said, the coach of the track team in middle school said, you've got long legs. I bet you can run fast. And I was like, yeah, I do like running fast. And she was like, well, then you should compete. And I thought, I don't like to compete. That's ugh. I don't want to be measured against other people and potentially lose. I'm noticing a theme here. And so she was like, well, tryouts are this day that they're all week long. You just stay after school and do tryouts. And so I missed the first day. Second day, she found me again. She was like, you going to come to tryouts tonight? And I was like, yeah. And I came, but I didn't try anything. And the third day, she's like, you coming? And I was like, okay, I'll come. And I did a few events, but I just got I think I ran one race and this girl dusted me. And I was like, I'm out of here. So I left early and I never joined the track team. So it's very familiar for me to have a feeling of, I'm not having fun anymore, or I don't like this, but I usually turn it into disappointment in myself instead of turning it into, I have gratitude for what we were able to make, or what I was able to do here at this job.
For the 3 weeks before I quit.
I
have gratitude for all the great things I made.
More like 10 years later after I quit, then I have gratitude. You've quit a job before, right? You've had to walk away from some jobs.
I think I've quit. Well, I'm trying to think. I was about to say I think I've quit every job I've ever had, but except for comedy. But like that's not completely true. Let's see. My first job was Funcoland, which eventually got bought out by GameStop.
Yeah, how can you quit Funcoland? And even bigger question, how do you quit GameStop?
I know. Well, the reason was I love working at a video game store, but there's always this component to any field that you don't know about. And that one at that job was that they wanted you to sell magazine subscriptions.
Oh no!
As a worker there, so like it was constantly like you need to sell, get people to subscribe to the magazine that Funcoland had, and along with that, you're selling cleaning kits too. You need to get them to get cleaning kits for all of their stuff.
Interesting.
So you were trying to upsell them on everything.
Yes,
and
upsell.
So, which, I mean, the model was we're buying these used video games from people and selling them. Like you whatever you make is 100%. It's not like selling new games. New games you don't have much of a profit margin.
Right.
So it was silly. And so I don't remember what I made, but I remember I left there. I quit to go to work the loading dock at Sears.
But before you move on to Sears, I have to ask you, is the reason you didn't want to help upsell people is because you don't like to be upsold on things?
I don't.
So it felt disingenuous?
Yeah, it's like I don't mind telling people about something. Like cleaning kits for video games, especially old Nintendo games. You know how you have to blow in them? Well, if you just cleaned off the pins inside, it would work. But if I tell them and they don't want it, to me, that's the end of the transaction. Like, we've done it.
It's not personal.
Yeah. Just so you know, we have cleaning kits. And if you're having trouble with your video games, this is what you can use.
Yes.
And that was not good enough for the managers.
And so they probably got on you. Like, you really got to push those cleaning things.
Yeah. And that's because the people above them were trying to tell the managers, your staff needs, this store needs to sell this many, whatever it is, 10 cleaning kits per month or whatever.
Right.
And so that meant each of us had to sell 2 or 3 or whatever per month.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't want to do this. And like, they're like, but you make commission on it. They try to do that thing where it's like, you make, for every one of those, you get $1 or something like that. And I'm like, but I don't want it. I'd rather, I'm making my money.
Yeah, I'm fine with my salary.
Yes, I'm checking people
Hourly
out.
wage.
I close the store, put the stuff out, I clean it. I'm all good with all of that.
Right.
Like, I'm good with the actual, you hire me for a thing. But when you add sales on top of it, where it's like, well, really, what we need you to just, it's like
some extra job you had no idea you'd sign up for.
Exactly. And it's like, I don't want to do that. And so went to Sears loading dock, and that, no sales involved. In fact, they don't want the customers to see you. They
don't want to, there's not people facing. No. It's people, your back is to the people.
Yes, there's a truck that pulls up, you take the stuff off the truck, and the pallets, and you move it over here. And occasionally you will take that stuff and you will put it out on the floor at some point.
Let me guess, your colleagues were a lot shadier here than at Funcoland.
I honestly can't remember a single one of them.
Oh my gosh, wow. Yeah. They just kept their heads down and did the work.
I guess so. And then... boy, what are some other jobs? Out of college, I took a job at a bank, just as a teller. They try to put those sales in there too, where it's not just being a teller and getting, cashing people's checks and all. You need to try to get them to open accounts, extra accounts, and credit card. Big thing with get them to open credit cards.
Of course. You had to start asking in interviews, like, okay, what are you not telling me?
Yeah,
what's the extra job I'm going to have to do?
What do I have to sell here?
Yeah, pretty much just that. Yeah. Also, before we finished the bank, back at the loading dock, I'm just picturing everybody that ever worked with you remembered who you were, because you were just like a performer and talking and wanting to chat people up. And
I wasn't a performer then.
I know, but I'm just imagining that your personality shines through, and they're just like, why won't this guy just keep his head down and stop making eye contact and stop smiling? We're loading dock workers. We're nondescript. No one remembers us.
I'm actually a little amazed. Like, I don't remember. I remember there was other people that worked at Sears that I went to school with that were in my high school.
Right.
But they were all on the floor. So they were doing things like...
They're the reason you're in the back. Put him in the back. We know
working in the women's department or whatever. And so we would sometimes go have a lunch break or whatever. And,
that's nice.
And hang out. But
So yeah, you're at the bank and you don't want to upsell on credit cards. And to that I will add, at TJ Maxx, I understand that they have to say, and also, would you like to save 10% today? Because you want to go, yeah, I'd love to. And they go, great, sign up for our credit card. But I let them finish the whole spiel. They ask that question and then I'm quiet. And then they say, by signing up for our TJ Maxx card. And then I say, not today, thank you. I like to do it that way because it's like, I appreciate that you had to do your spiel.
And they press a button that says, ask again.
Ask again later.
She said, not today, ask her again.
They take a picture of you like at a carnival ride and put it on the wall. And they're like, she's still open. Open for possibilities.
Yeah. Sell her information too. So to every place.
So after the bank, then what was it?
Oh, well, I know that I sorted mail for the Postal Service. That was why I was in college. So that was just a summer job.
Okay. I like that. That seems pretty low stakes, low pressure.
That one was fine because it was a lot of physical work, not necessarily lifting things. There were some things that were a little heavy, but it was like just constantly moving. So you're on your feet, you're moving boxes from here to here. Like it wasn't sorting individual
You weren't reading the envelopes and then putting them in a basket for which state to go to.
No, they were sorted in giant boxes that had like a zip code or something like that, or a code on it. I don't know if it was even the zip code. It might have been like region 1 or region 2 or whatever.
Right.
And so you had to then sort them by that.
Yeah.
And you put them from basically a conveyor belt. You take them off the conveyor belt and you sort them into different, I don't even know what you would call them because they're not pallets, but they're like these metal containers that you just put them on, and
that's cool.
And then you roll the metal container away.
I always wondered how that works. Like I also wondered how long it takes you to memorize how to work at a post office. Was the training just like a day?
It didn't take long.
Yeah.
No.
They show you and then they leave you alone.
Yeah, and I wasn't at the post office. I was at the airport. So you trucks, the mail would come in off of a plane. So that's where the conveyor belt was like, if somebody getting stuff off the plane, they put it on the conveyor belt, it'd come to us.
Yes.
And then we would sort it, and that would go into trucks at the end of the evening, and for the trucks to take it to the local post offices, where they would then sort and give to the mailmen.
That's such an important job. That's really, I'm just fascinated by how many people it takes to get mail.
Yeah, and it paid
from one place to another.
At the time, I think it was very good for a college student. I think it was maybe $15 or $20 an hour, which was pretty good for a college student. But you only worked maybe 4 hours a night or something like that. So, but the shifts were weird. So you'd be either 8 to 12 or 12 to like 4 in the morning.
Oh, wow.
Or 11 till 3 or something like that. So
this is why you're such a night owl.
Well, it fit in perfectly with that. So I didn't quit that one. I just went back to school. So then I didn't go back after I was done with school.
You never had a chance to dislike it, right? You were in a groove.
It only lasts for a few months, and it's just summer work. So.
Well, the job I never wanted to end that reminds me of is in college. I would call old alumni and ask for donations, but it wasn't personal for me because I was reading a script off the computer, and you got this unlimited closet full of granola bars and fruit roll-ups. So I was like in heaven.
Yeah, you didn't get paid, but you got unlimited fruit roll-ups.
No, that's on top of that. I actually got some money, so I remember I was like, I can buy groceries from money I made, and I would sit next to my friends, like whether they were roommates or people from my dorm, and we'd find shifts together, sit next to each other, and just overhear each other asking the same boring questions like, hi, is this so-and-so? Great. How are you doing? My name's so-and-so, and I went from your school. I'd tell my real name.
Yeah.
But, I got so comfortable with it, I started making up names just to make it interesting. And that was fun because the boss wasn't over your shoulder making sure. And you didn't have to tell the truth about who you were.
They didn't care.
He was checking up on you.
Nope.
Oh, you could speak in an accent, and it didn't matter. It was a fun job. Great place to try out your accents and your celebrity impressions.
Sound effects.
Hi, this is Arnold. I don't think this is Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Who?
Ma'am? Are you sure your name is Arnold? Yeah.
You sound more like Arnold the pig from Green Acres than you sound like Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Hi, it's me, Garfield. I have a case of the Mondays. They're like, were you pranking me? Is the kid from down the block pranking me?
Garfield? And what do you want? You want to donate money? Like, which part of this is the joke?
This is the worst prank call I've ever heard.
Yeah. No, I don't want to donate money. And go back to the impressions, please.
Yeah, I didn't want that job to end, but like you said, it was short. It was a short-term job. It was short-lived.
Yeah, any of those short-term jobs. It's like, did I quit them? Sort of. I mean, I graded tests for a little bit, right?
That's when I met you.
Yes, that's when we met. And right before we moved to New York, I was grading tests. And I think the only reason I quit that game or quit that job,
Yeah.
it kind of was like a game because I was the best grader there.
Were you like super fast and ahead of schedule, so you'd start to?
The fastest.
I'm sure.
I was the absolute fastest. You know, and partly because, you know, I don't know if I've said this before on there, but you learn to like scan a document and go, okay, I this is what that grade is. So I could do it almost instantaneously.
Why?
Whereas you'd see the old ladies just like getting out their reading glasses and they would be taking 5 minutes per essay. It's like 1 page. Come on, Ethel. Let's move it.
You are good at speed reading. I'll give you that. Whenever we're sharing a newspaper page or a book, you're like, read this for a second. Are you done yet? I'm like, no. Of course, I have to read
I'm still
same
on
sentence.
The title.
Yeah, I know. I have to read the same sentence 3 times. I get distracted by little sounds. So yeah, it's funny that you were. That's what filing was like for me when we were temping. We both worked as temps in New York when we moved here, and anytime I went to a company and they're like, "Okay, we're gonna need you to file," and it'd be like one cabinet, and they're like, "Just reorganize that, and just put that there." I'm like, "That's it." All right. And I had to learn not to do it all in the first hour I was there. Then they just, stand around not knowing what to say.
Yeah. I worked for my brother, who's a psychologist. I did that as well, filing. And that's when I got there, I was kind of like, this filing system's pretty bad. Do you want me to just like put this in alphabetical order? And it just had like just a room almost full of filing cabinets, but they weren't in correct order. It's kind of like they somehow knew the system, but I was like, you couldn't have anybody come in here and understand this. Like,
yeah.
Why don't you do by year and by alphabetical order within the years, the files or whatever it was? And it's been so long, I can't remember exactly how I did, but that was like the one thing where my brother walked away from the whole thing going, that was the best thing you did while you were here.
Yeah, that really helped.
Yeah, that actually helped. I think everything else was, I did a little bit of the scheduling and stuff, but it really wasn't anything important. It was,
if you didn't think that meeting needed to happen, you wouldn't write it down.
Yeah, well, no, it wasn't even like that. It was kind of like somebody would call in and say, I would like an appointment with Dr. Thayer. And I go, okay, what day? Tuesday at 2:00 we have an opening. Okay, write down their name. Yeah. And it was all paper. Okay. And so I wanted to like computerize it. Oh. And they were not ready for that. So I was like,
you were a bit of a problem in that office. I can tell.
All I could say is like, I was like, there's all these programs you can do. This is all available. You can do it. They're like, I think we're gonna stick with this. And I think they were even a little hesitant on the filing, like messing with it. And I go, but this is really disorganized. Why don't you organize it? And when I did it, I think he was like, I'm glad we did that.
Sure. It's hard. Yeah, sometimes change is hard for companies. They don't know if it's going to mess the budget up or something.
I don't know. I think they're afraid of any sort of change. Although when I worked at the bank, I had long hair, and the change that they wanted me to make was to cut my hair.
I'm noticing a pattern with you too. You like to do things the Luke way or no way at all.
Which is why I'm a stand-up comedian.
Yep.
And quit every other job I've ever had.
Similarly, I got fired from a lot of jobs, not because I was a terrible person. I was just, brimming with personality and having good relationships at work. It was the actual task that was hard for me to do. I think I've talked about it here before. I would squat at the pizzeria instead of standing behind the cash register because I got tired of standing and I didn't see anything wrong with squatting. And everybody else did. They're like, not good optics.
Well, they definitely didn't tell you that when you applied for the job and got hired. When we say stand behind the counter, we mean actually stand there.
Yeah.
Like not squat and sit down on the floor.
They should have learned to ask me questions. What are you not telling us about you, Abby, that you're going to start to unleash on us over time? And I'm like, well, I'm quite unmotivated and very whiny.
I have no sense of decorum.
I have no sense of decorum. I I once, and you know the story well, but I'm telling it to you again. I once temped for a woman at her desk and got so bored I started opening her desk, which already seems like an invasion of privacy, but I didn't know any better. And I'm opening and I see a box of Captain Crunch cereal. And I was like, well, this is a gift. And I pour some right there on the table. There's no paper plate. I didn't go to any pantry and look for a paper plate. And so I'm eating it at her computer while I'm doing whatever else at the computer I'm supposed to do. And I noticed people just walking by, slowly looking at me and then walking away. And I'm like, what's their problem? Crunch, crunch, crunch.
Were you weren't a receptionist, were you?
I was not a receptionist at that particular job.
Actually, hush.
But I do remember thinking at the very end of the day, as I, snuck the third handful of like her own cereal, I thought maybe I wouldn't want this done at my workspace. Maybe this was a little rude.
She should have had a different desk that had locks on it.
Amen, brother. So yeah, no sense of decorum. I would say every job I had, I got increasingly professional as I went on. Like I learned, you have to you have to wear shoes when you come into this workplace.
You buried the lead there. I didn't wear shoes to a work site once.
We had, I'll tell you, once, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did this. I was working as an internal auditor, and I went from temp to a full-time job offer. That's how charismatic I think I was. But I had to work alongside a colleague, and she and I were both in our early 20s, and we were doing an off-site thing. For some reason, they had to do repairs in the main building, so we were in some Jersey office. And we got to stay at a hotel, and you got your own hotel room, and you had a per diem for room service. So I was just like, I was on vacation in my mind. So she knocks on my door, and she's like, Abby, we need to go, because we were carpool buddies. And I'm driving the rental car. And I was like, yeah, I'll be right down. And I was running late. Time management was an issue for me back then. And
just back then, though.
She saw me come down in my stockings, and I didn't have shoes. I had like house slippers or something. And she was like, where are your shoes? And I was like, oh, shoot, I forgot them. It's okay. I was like, I don't want you to be late to work. I'll drive you to work on time. And so I drove. No, she was driving. This is the issue. So she was driving. She had the rental car. It was in her name. And she was like, don't go. You can't go back and get shoes. It's my rental car. Just get your shoes. And I was like, no, we're going to be late. Let's go. We went there. And the second her back was turned, I got back in the car. I drove back to our hotel, and I got my little loafers, and I came back. Because I felt I had spent 20 minutes of that first, morning in stockings. And I don't think I had house slippers, to be honest. But anyway, I must have had something covering my feet. And so when I got back, she was so upset with me. She was like, you went back to get your shoes, didn't you? And I was like, well, I can't spend a whole workday without shoes. And she was like, but your name's not rental. You remember I called you with that? I probably called you crying, like, my coworker yelled at me and I didn't have shoes.
I blocked that out. That's the kind of, that's like everything you just explained is not,
makes no sense.
None of it makes any sense. And nor is it something that like a husband should, that's not.
Were we married yet? I don't think we were married yet.
Even if we were dating, like a boyfriend or a husband, that's like something a 20-year-old calls their 60-year-old dad and says the story to.
Dad, they're being mean to me over here. Yeah. I just remember you were very supportive. You were taking my side. You were like, she should have let you go back and get your shoes. Of course you need shoes for work.
Yeah. Did I say it like that? Of course. Like I sounded
remember,
like the 60-year-old dad.
I remember
Of course she should have let you
go. You were the 60-year-old dad. No, I remember at the time feeling like, well, this guy gets me. And also, and I just felt better about it after I talked to you. So I don't think you would have said, why didn't you have shoes on?
I think my guess is that it's probably even like, who even cares? It's some dumb auditing job. Like,
yeah, you probably did not care about impressing them at work.
Yeah, just quit and go get a different, like what I do. Just quit once they tell you cut your hair, leave.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. But even, you've been like, you sure you want to leave the house without deodorant? You sure you want to leave the house with your shirt on backwards? You sure you want to leave the house without brushing your teeth? Like, this has often been an issue with me with time management of like, I'll just skip that step. Who needs it? And you're like, you need it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You replaced 4 of those steps with Instagramming, and I think you might want to switch your priorities a little.
I've gone on a dog walk with an open mug of coffee, and that's never a good idea. Your dogs will yank it right out of your hand. Mm-hmm. But I'm like, well, I'll just finish it on my way out. So yeah, I don't know if it's better to be a quitter or a person that gets fired for making unusual choices in their job.
That's a kind way to put unusual choices.
Inappropriate, unprofessional choices.
Yeah. Fireable offenses.
These are,
I believe is the term.
And these, believe it or not, are the reasons I never let myself become president of the United States. I was like, they're gonna go back in my history, and there's no old coworkers they can talk to.
Presidents must wear shoes. No shirt, no
Meanwhile,
shoes, no
other
service.
people with like children on the side and sex scandals are applying for presidency, and I'm like, no. Once I ate someone else's Captain Crunch, they'll dig into my background and find that out. I can't do it. Mm-hmm. I can't live down the shame. But yeah, I don't know. That's just how it goes, I guess, sometimes for people. But there's the phrase is cheaters never prosper, not quitters never prosper. So I think a piece of advice is if you know it's wrong for you, quit. Or if you've done something completely unprofessional, quit and start somewhere else and never do that thing again.
Yeah, well, I think there's a difference for sure between young and more mature people. So
yes,
when you're quitting when you're younger, part of that is you don't know what you like yet. You know, I quit the crew team, which is rowing, at Indiana University after like 3 weeks. I was on the team and I didn't even quit. I just stopped showing up. So this whole thing about quiet quitting.
Yes.
Look, millennials and Gen Z, you didn't invent this.
No.
Luke there invented this back when he went to Indiana University.
It's been a thing for a while.
I quiet quit plenty of things. You just don't show up anymore.
You did that Irish goodbye at many a job.
Yes. And that's just because they switched the practices to 5 a.m.
I can only imagine.
I was like, you got the wrong guy for this.
And isn't it it's not during the spring is crew. It's like in the cold months,
in the fall,
isn't it?
Yeah.
Shame on them.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I didn't love it enough. So, but I don't feel bad for 1 second about that because I didn't love crew. It was something I kind of fell backwards into. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, I'll try this. This will be fun. And then when it was like not fun, I was like, there is nothing about this that, I would get up at 5 a.m. if I was going to be on the basketball team. Mm-hmm. I'm not getting up for 5 a.m. to go row a boat in a lake.
Yeah, if it's something you like, you get up. And I've had jobs where I was very motivated. I remember like any childcare job or daycare center job or, I was always there early, on time, doing everything. Like I love childcare for some reason, but I refused to go into it professionally. I kept insisting I should be in an office, and then I would just rebel subconsciously, I think.
Yeah, you definitely don't need shoes in childcare.
No, they don't have their shoes on. Why should you? So I like that about you, that when you know you don't like something, you're okay with yourself. You don't give it a second thought. You know that I tend to ruminate and beat myself up over things I didn't even like to do in the first place. So that's something different. That's one way in which we're different, and I admire you. Let me see if I can find out how you feel about this. You ever just go into a store just to browse? Maybe you need to kill some time, and then they ask you, you need some help, sir? I hate that.
You mean every time I walk into a store ever?
Well, they do their job, which is,
Yes.
Unless they're Luke or Abby at this workplace, they go ahead and they confront the person that comes in the door and say, hi, can I help you with anything? Mm-hmm. And all you're supposed to say is, yes, please help me find this shirt, or no, thanks, I'm good, I'm just looking. I was never comfortable saying just looking. So I would make up something and say, and I'd sit there and think, I'm looking for, do you have anything
shoes
with lace on it?
Because I didn't wear any here.
If it was a clothing store, I would ask for some specific detail. And one thing I still find myself doing is if someone says, can I help you today? This happened just the other day at a grocery store. I was like, yeah, I can't find the rice. And it would be truly in front of me because I'm subconsciously just picking something that was around.
I can't find the rice. It's right here, man. You're in the rice aisle. It says it on the top.
And they don't feel helpful. They think I'm wasting their time. They're like, the rice? You mean this one right here? Yeah. Oh, thank you. Thanks so much. Yeah. Bye-bye. But it's just because I want to end that convo. So, yeah.
Yeah, which, another way to do. No, thank you.
Yeah,
I'm fine.
Yeah, I don't know.
And they go, oh, okay. And they walk on to the next person.
But you know why I don't like saying no? It's because I feel like, no, I came in here to shoplift and I want you to stop looking at me. That's what I assume they're going to think of me. And I don't want them to think. So I have to seem like a shopper. But then I give them the world's worst shopping requests.
Okay, well, you know what?
And it looks even more suspicious.
I can understand that being a black woman in a store is very different than being a white guy at a store.
Thank you.
Yeah. I get it. Now I get it now.
Nothing that I have said has indicated the classic black experience, unless we have a lot of beautiful black listeners who also have social anxiety to some extent.
There is no stereotype of race about anything you've done. There's no race on the planet that has a stereotype of goes to work without their shoes on.
I remember at a restaurant, at an Italian restaurant, this woman said, "Why do you always start singing the second anybody walks up to you?" And I said, "I don't do that." And she goes, "No, you do. You do. You start humming." And I was like, I don't know. I don't think I do that. And then I was at the machine punching in some numbers, and someone sidles up to me, and I'm like, ooh, ha, ha, hee, ha, ooh. And I was like, I do that. So the answer is I do it because I'm uncomfortable, and I think it's dispelling some of my nervous energy maybe. But I love that she knew about it and I didn't.
Not comfortable with the silence, but you have nothing to say. So you just make noise.
Is it silence? Is it silence I'm afraid of, or is it judgment? Like if someone's standing over me and they're not saying anything, they must be upset with what I'm doing. One woman did say I took too long at the machine. So maybe that was it. Like knowing that, they want me out of here. Gotta detonate this bomb.
Well, that definitely will speed things up by adding a song to them.
Our daughter does the same thing, actually. She starts stalling big time whenever we rush her. Hey, it's time to hurry up. Oh, maybe I will just look at this over here. What are you doing?
It is amazing. I could say, wash your hands, and I will be staring at her, and she's not doing it. And I'm like, hey, wash your hands. And she acts startled by that.
Yeah.
Huh?
What?
What do you mean? What?
We have to have a better way.
The whole purpose of what you were doing.
I'll be like, this is what we need to say. Could you pet the dog and then play with that toy and then walk to the chalkboard and do a little doodle and then brush your teeth? Mm-hmm. No, I'll just brush my teeth. That's what she'll say. I don't have time to do all that stuff.
Well, that's the difference. She's 6 and you're an adult. Uh-huh. And you have the same patterns of behavior.
Yeah. Well, I'm, what do you call it? I'm a kid at heart.
That's it. And in actions.
I don't like to feel like a lurker in stores. Hey, how about this? You win a camper on a game show. Picture it. You don't get to sell it for cash. I know everybody wants to sell. If they don't like a game show prize, they'll sell it for cash. Well, guess what? You're contractually bound to keep this camper. Okay. So you might as well use it. My question for you is, where do you go?
If I had a camper, which I don't know if this is the kind you pull across on the back of your car, or is it a separate like Winnebago type of thing?
Winnebago, you drive it. It has its own bathroom.
Oh, you know what? I probably just go to various cities and do stand up.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, I don't think I would, because I wouldn't have to worry about money of like staying in hotels or anything. So I just pick different places along and just book maybe one night. And every couple nights, I'm just keep continually down the road,
Oh, that's so nice, too. You don't have to worry about a hotel or anybody seeing you on a cruise ship. You disappear into the parking lot.
Yep. Sorry, guys, I could go home. Like home, yeah. I'm in the parking lot.
I think I would go to Yellowstone National Park if campers are allowed. I would go someplace natural and nice, and I would learn about camper culture. I'd become one of those people that camps in their camper but leaves it open, and we all like barter and trade. You know about these people.
I don't want to know about those people. That's not the type of life I want to live. But yeah, I guess there is the campsite people.
Well,
I performed at a campsite once, where people came with their campers and
cool.
Yeah, they were all. I was kind of like, why are you doing this? Like, you just want to take this little mini house, put it in the woods, and then everybody still treats it like a neighborhood.
Yeah, you're recreating civilization that we already have back in.
And this is like the middle of Jersey.
Over the highway. Yeah.
It's like, this is not.
Let's get back on the highway and get some Wi-Fi, everybody. Well, let me conclude by saying recently there has been this viral question on TikTok that's got men in an uproar and women uniting. And it's, they ask women, would you rather be alone with a bear or alone with a man? I think, in a cave, in a forest or something?
In a forest.
Okay. Yeah. And women are overwhelmingly choosing bear, and men are being like, yeah, right. And women are saying, no, it's based on these experiences I've had with men. I think a bear, would listen to you. You guys know the meme already. Mm-hmm. So, Luke, I got to ask you, would you rather be alone in a forest with a bear or your mother-in-law? I'm kidding. The real question is a bear. I don't know. No, a bear or your least favorite boss of all time. And I think I know who that might be, but we don't have to say names.
I don't know if I could even think who my least favorite boss is because I kind of just forget them and move on. Mm-hmm. I would. I mean, the real answer would be a human being, no matter who they are.
Yeah, a man has no problem being alone with a human than a bear.
Yeah,
a bear you think would kill you?
Yeah, that's kind of what they do, I think.
Always with people. You're not covered in honey.
I don't think I'm covered with meat.
You are the honey.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think truly, I get why everybody was saying I'd rather be. It's just like if it's a man and we're not also specifying length of time. Like, is it overnight in the woods? Is that the reason? Like when nightfall
around a bear at all?
Yeah, not at a length of time. I think for an hour, I would choose human over bear. But when would I feel safer with a bear than a human? I think like any animal is easy to communicate with, but a human, you have to make small talk and then ask questions about their life. Like being trapped in an elevator with somebody, that stinks. Mm-hmm. I mean, when the elevator stops, not when you're just riding in the elevator.
Yeah, there's no circumstance in which I think I could stay with the bear because, for one, I'm very juicy. But also, small talk. I guess you'd have to make small talk, but I can freeze people out. I'm pretty good at icing them out. Who cares?
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Thanks for joining us today. If you had a great time, let us know on social. Follow Kid is in School on Twitter and The Kid is in School on Instagram. Subscribe so you don't miss our next episode. Be sure to throw us one of those 5-star ratings and share with your friends. Oh, and do it quickly before the kid gets home.